Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Scott Luton and Enrique Alvarez with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's show. Enrique, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Super happy and excited to be with you, and then also to talk to our great guest today.
I'm with you. I love that you're back with us. I know you're traveling the world as we're all getting back into real life IRL, which I hear is a thing these days. But this conversation is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking with a supply chain leader that has risen through the ranks from an appliance design engineer through to a role as a manufacturing plant manager, all points between, and now in an executive position where she leads all facets for the U.S. distribution network of a very well-known brand. So stay tuned for a wonderful and intriguing conversation. Enrique, should be a good one, huh?
It should be a good one. Yes, for sure. 29 years, I think it's her experience with this organization. That's a long time.
Agreed. She's got stories and books to write, undoubtedly. So, hey, with no further ado, let's welcome in Marcia Brey, Vice President of Distribution with GE Appliances. Marcia, how you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing, Scott?
We're doing wonderful. We love doing this every day. So being able to meet a new supply chain leader and kind of get to know you better and also get your point of view on what's going on across the industry. This is what we do. So great to see you again. And where we want to start, Enrique and Marcia, we want to get to know you better, Marcia. So that opening question that we always start with is, hey, tell us where you grew up and give us some anecdotes or two about your upbringing.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to share my story with you. So I'm a hometown girl. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, which is our headquarters here for GE Appliances. Actually, right down the street from where we're located.
Really?
I did, yeah. And, GE Appliances is interesting. We're actually in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a large city, but we're in the middle of a neighborhood. And so you wouldn't necessarily even know you're coming up on Appliance Park. And we're a very, very large organization. We have our own zip code,
Really?
in Louisville. But growing up right down the street, I really didn't even know this was here. So it's interesting, how life works out. You grow up, 20 years and then realize, hey, I'm going to spend 30 years of my life going forward here. But my childhood and growing up and, going to high school, I never imagined that this is where I would be. And my journey has really just had a lot of twists and turns. And it's been something I never could have scripted, but I wouldn't change one thing. I love it. So maybe just a couple stories growing up. I come from a modest family. Didn't have a lot of money. My parents were, my mom's a teacher and my dad's an insurance adjuster. So engineering and, being in the corporate world was really nothing that I had grown up or experienced. My mom went back to school after she had me to get her teaching certificate. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was a welder, blue-collared welder, and lived on a farm. And so, I loved my grandfather because early on, I was never a girly girl. My mom, bought me dolls and dresses, and I preferred, barefoot and my dolls apart. My grandfather realized this, and he had me in a welding hood and teaching me to weld. Being on a farm, there's something always broken. And so I would follow him around. We would fix things together. He would show me how to use tools. We would go to neighbors' houses if they had problems, maybe they needed something fixed. My grandfather was like the guy you called in the neighborhood. Wow. So took me around and I found a love for building things, using tools. I wasn't intimidated by them because I grew up, my life like that. And so anyway, let
me ask you a question really quick, Marcia.
Yeah.
Your grandfather's name, what's his name? What was his name?
Ray Casabella.
Ray Casabella. And so it sounds like he had a heart for giving and helping others, it sounds like.
He did.
And we're gonna. It seems like that's part of your DNA, and we're gonna touch on that later. But I could just almost picture y'all walking through and taking the calls and fixing stuff, whether it's on his farm or neighbors or whatever. That clearly has been experiences that continue to impact your journey in terms of the leader you are today. Is that right?
Absolutely. That empathy for people. My grandfather taught me, everyone, you have a chance to learn something from everyone you meet. And it doesn't matter who they are, what walk of life they come from. You treat people with respect. And I saw him do it. I followed him and emulated what he did. And I feel it today. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization. There are problems to solve. And there are people out there who understand and see that problem from different perspectives. And the more you can understand, the more you can go see, using lean now that I know more
right.
How corporate world tends to put things together. But the more you can have relationships with people that they feel comfortable bringing problems and they feel comfortable showing you can solve a lot of things really fast. And you can do it in a way that brings people closer together. And you're right. I guess I never thought of it like that, Scott, but that is something that's fundamental. It's important to me as a leader. And it's something that I strive to continue to grow.
It comes across. It's like emanating.
Right.
It really does. Really quick, Enrique, I bet this resonates with you. And before, because I got a quick follow-up question about Louisville, I want to ask Marcia. I don't want to change gears just yet. Enrique, speak to what Marcia was just sharing there.
Well, at the end of the day, I think she's right. And the quote that I even wrote was, you have a chance to learn something from everyone you meet, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of kind of the personality, the background, the culture, the religion. And I think that's something that's not only incredibly powerful, but I think that it's something that's somewhat, or it feels like it's somewhat missing these days, right? With all these different sides of things and the way that we're trying to polarize society. I think that's a great quote. And it sounds like your father was an amazing person.
Yeah, my grandfather, he was absolutely an amazing person. And, and I appreciate the time he spent with me. And it's something I hope to pass on to my kids and, the people that I work with too, to give them that respect that my grandfather did, to a young girl who very impressionable, but it really made a difference.
Love that. Ray Casabella. Is that right?
Ray Casabella. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So really quick, before we're going to talk about engineering more in a moment, but food, we love talking food. Here at Supply Chain Now, what's one dish that is inseparable from your upbringing in Louisville?
Inseparable from my upbringing would have to be my grandmother's pot roast and city chicken. I don't know if people know city chicken, but in Louisville, if you go to the butcher and you ask for city chicken, it's all the leftover meat that they put on a skewer. And a Sunday night, so we either got pot roast or we got city chicken. And I love city chicken night. So
I love that.
That's my thing. So you come to Louisville, you can ask for city chicken. Of course, hot browns are really big here in Louisville, Kentucky too. But my family's city chicken.
I love it. Okay, wonderful. Now that you've made us starving for city chicken, pot roast, and hot browns, let's talk about engineering. So what, if I don't want to answer the question, I think part of what you've already shared might partially answer this question, but what got you interested in engineering? And then we're going to talk about your degrees here in a second.
Yeah. So certainly love for building things. And, I really give a lot of credit to my mom and dad. Again, not knowing engineering. I remember when the word engineering first came up, I looked it up in the encyclopedia because back then we didn't have the internet. Right. So I had to look it up in a book. And I was like, and at first I'm like, no, it's not the railroad. It's something else. And, I knew I wanted to solve problems. I love building things. And my mom kept saying, you need to be an engineer. You need to be an engineer. And I'll tell you an interesting story. In high school, you, at least at the time, you took tests, the kind of like aptitude tests. Where would you fit in? And for whatever reason, I never did test well, by the way, early in school. But I came back and my counselor told me, I said, hey, she's, what do you want to be? I was like, I want to be an engineer. And she was like, no, I don't think that's a good fit for you. You need to be a teacher. That's what she told me. So I come home, and I'm like, hey, Mom, look what happened. Oh, she was furious. She's like, you are not going to be a teacher. You are going to be a phenomenal engineer. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. And so I did. And so I applied to engineering school and got in here at U of L, University of Louisville Speed School. And I actually ended up doing incredibly well. And I found my passion. I love the labs, and I loved working in teams, and I love solving problems. And I love the technical aspect of the job. Although you'll my career, I've spent probably about a third of my career very technical, but the fundamental foundation of what I do on a day-to-day basis for 29 years is solving problems. And using that engineering mindset of how to do that has been key for me.
And so you're like almost an engineer's engineer, because you didn't stop with a bachelor's. You've got an advanced degree, a master's, I believe, Marcia, in engineering as well. So how does that, beyond what you've shared, how does all of that education and experience, that formal education and experience, how does that impact your approach to solving business or even supply chain challenges?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I have 2 masters in engineering.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'll tell you, my personality has changed a lot, but when I was younger, I loved making plans. My life was on a spreadsheet, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. And I really did fall in love with solving technical problems. And I said, hey, I love to learn. I got my master's in mechanical engineering, and then started working here at G Appliances, and realized in order to continue to grow as an engineer, I thought, well, hey, I want to keep going to school. So I went to school part-time and got a second master's in quality and reliability engineering from the University of Arizona, long distance. Wow. It was one of the first long distance programs they had. Of course, long distance is normal now, right, for everybody, but it wasn't then. And because that's what I thought I'd be. And I wanted to go to the best school for quality and reliability. University of Arizona does a lot with NASA, there in Tucson, Arizona. So that's what I did. Now, looking back on my career, I will tell you that if I had known where my life would lead me and my spreadsheet wasn't really accurate, an MBA would have served me a lot better. But, to your question, it's all about having different tools to solve problems. And what University of Arizona taught me was around probabilistic design, mechanical design. So, there's certainly factual, you input, X plus Y equals Z, inputs equal outputs. But my continuing education taught me about probabilities, and it taught me about, there's a boundary of success. There's not a point answer. There's, you can find it in this range, and you need to be able to keep an open mind about what really are you trying to solve? What risk are you willing to tolerate? And so it's, like I said, it's all about problem solving, and it has served me really well.
Well, so I'm the oddball here. So Enrique, I'm going to pass the baton, but before you jump into GE Appliances, Enrique, I believe you are a degreed engineer. So
mechanical engineer as well. I can relate to the math and engineering part of it for sure.
Since y'all 2 masterminds, let's not talk any math or any high level, highfalutin.
No linear algebra.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But Enrique, where are we going next with Marcia Brey?
Marcia, thank you so much. I can totally relate with your engineering background. And of course, having lived with your grandfather, building things, fixing things, to GE Appliances. That seems like a very natural path, a very natural career selection. Could you tell us a little more how it happened after you graduated?
Sure. So, it does really fit well of wanting to solve problems, wanting to build things, and wanting to solve, work and make life a little bit better for others, right? How do you do that? And that's really, when you think about G Appliances, we're a company that designs, builds, services appliances for the home. And every day, every one of us in some way are interfacing with your appliances, whether it's in the kitchen, it's in the laundry, air conditioning, water products. That's what we do. And so, and you probably don't think of appliances as being very technical. Let me tell you, there are more electronic boards in a refrigerator than there are in most computers or other things that you have in your home. The technology that we have today and how we design appliances for consumers is really top of the line. And so being able to be part of an organization that doesn't just build millions of appliances a year, we design and are thinking about what's new. How can we use technology to create something consumers can make their lives easier, to make it easier to cook, to make it easier to clean your dishes, to make it simpler for the activities you don't want to think about every day, like laundry for me specifically. We can make that simple and be able to do this. So it was a natural fit for me, to think about G appliances. And where I started my career, I started designing washer transmissions. And that was my job. And I loved it. I absolutely loved the technical side of that design element. And we build, washers right here in Louisville. And so being able to be at the factory, we have 5 full million square foot factories here at Appliance Park. So there's a lot of variety as well, that you could get involved with. So that was the reason that I picked to work here at GE Appliances. But I'll tell you too, the reason I stay for 29 years, I have learned is really about the people. And the people I work with every day not only challenge me to learn more, they have my back. They're good people. They have helped me grow as a human here and to be a better person. Like I said, my spreadsheet had unknowingly boundaries and limits on it of what I thought I'd do in my career. And working at G Appliances has provided a place where those boundaries were broken and people were able to help me envision much, much bigger aspirations. I went from a design engineer to sales and marketing. And while my resume might not traditionally say I was qualified for those roles, people trusted me and having ambition and the drive that I could do more than just be an engineer. Not that that's bad, but I could get involved in the bigger aspect of the company. And that's really where I found my passion is how can I lead at a bigger level? How can I be more involved to drive this company that I love and to help build it and grow it on a bigger scale? In order to do that, I needed to understand more than just the design engineering technical side of it. And I've been able to do that. And I feel very fortunate that my path led me here to G Appliances.
No, it sounds like an amazing organization with a great culture. And now if you could tell us a bit more about your current role as a VP of distribution, because you went from the technical aspects to the culture being important and the people to somehow you landed in our industry, supply chain logistics, which is another big shift, right? Probably not on your original Excel spreadsheet.
Well, kind of. I mean, I love the technical side, right? And I think there's a lot of similarities of being in a design engineering role and then working in manufacturing, quality, and distribution, all of which I have spent probably 2/3 of my career in that space. So I definitely classify myself as supply chain. That is my love. It's my passion. And it's something that encompasses all. I mean, you have to know the commercial sales side. You have to know your customer, of what they want. And then I'm in distribution at the end of the value stream. And so I have to be able to deliver what we promised. And so having that broader aspect and understanding, I think, is really important. I think to understand distribution means to understand a little bit about our company. It has been 29 years has been amazing. The last 5 years have been phenomenal. Appliances is typically a really thin margin business. And so, the first part of my career, a lot on cost out, how do we maintain, but it was pretty much you grow at GDP, it's not, this year is kind of like last year, right? And that's kind of the way it went. The last 5 years, I mean, COVID, of course, on top of it, but the last 5 years have been an amazing growth for GE Appliances. And, we had a new strategy brought in that we will be the number one appliance company in the United States, which means we will grow and pretty much double our company. That's pretty amazing when you think we were pretty big to begin with. And a new philosophy of zero distance. And what I mean by that, of the thought of how do we shrink this big organization of a company to be as close to the consumer as possible. Every day, what the consumer wants, how they're thinking, how things change, enables us to have more nimbleness and flexibility to respond to that customer, to the consumer. And so, over the last 5 years, we've invested $2 billion in our business to grow. And that's in new products, new factories, new warehouses, new distribution centers. We've created 4,000 more jobs across our company, which is pretty amazing. And the last thing I'll share as I talk about distribution is we flipped our culture and our organization, I should say, upside down. we were very traditionally 5 years ago, just like most corporate companies. You have your CEO, your CFO. They make the decisions of how we're going to spend money, what our goals are. Financial goals were the number one thing we had to hit. Then you have your functional leaders in there, your sales, your marketing, manufacturing, sourcing, distribution. Then you have the product teams, refrigeration, dishwasher, and so forth. And so it was very hierarchical. 5 years ago, when we made this zero distance, we said it's not going to work if we don't flip. If we're going to be zero distance to our consumer and our customer, the product has to come first. That's what they care about. They don't care about our financial goals. They don't care about, all these other things that this manufacturing team is doing. So they care about the product and how do we make the product first. And so we created we call it micro enterprise structure. We're a micro enterprise led company. Our CEO would even tell you his job is to support the micro enterprises. A micro enterprise is the dishwasher team, the refrigeration team, the laundry team. I'm a platform leader. I support my micro enterprise team on a matrix standpoint. So my job, with all of that said, is I am responsible for moving finished good product from the factories or from our suppliers that we source from, all the way through our distribution centers throughout the United States. We have 11 of them, to our customers. And then we also offer, so transportation is in there. We also offer final mile delivery. So if a customer would like for us to install appliances, my team is responsible for knocking on Mrs. Jones' door. I have your full kitchen set here ready. We will unhook and remove your appliances, and we will do full installation, white glove service for our consumers as well. So that's my job in distribution. I have the great honor of touching our consumers every day. My team does, I should say, and making sure that we deliver a great experience on time, damage free, and providing the right service for our consumers.
Zero distance.
Installed, right? Yeah. That's amazing, Scott, right? How it goes and the team goes from manufacturing to, I guess, having water coming out of the refrigerator or whatever it might be, right?
Right.
It's incredible.
I love that. So I want to shift gears a bit. You touched on a lot of things, and it's fascinating to hear from a organizational standpoint, because you're right, and perhaps more so in the appliances industry than many others, right? Because we touch these things every day, to your point. So I love how it's consumer centric, it's product centric. Are we building the products that the consumers are raving fans over? And that's kind of some of the things I'm picking up here. And of course, frankly, I've had GE appliances. We've got some in our house right now, and we're raving fans.
We appreciate you being a consumer of ours.
Definitely.
Part of the thing. Thank you.
You bet. So I want to shift gears though, because beyond everything you're doing with GE appliances, you're also deeply immersed in the greater industry, I'll call it. So you chair, Marcia, GEA's Women's Network. So if you could tell us what that is and why, perhaps more importantly, why is this really the service work important to you?
Yeah. So I am very honored I co-chair, I'm the executive sponsor of our Women's Network with a great friend and coworker of mine, Christy Sadoff. And so the Women's Network is one of 8 affinity groups that we have at GE Appliances. And the purpose of our affinity groups is to have purposeful representation of all demographics, all different thinking, to be able to help our company grow and to help, more importantly, our employees have a place, have a space that they have a voice and can be part of our business. Because sometimes you get lost in the just day-to-day business, running. How do we make sure that we see and respect people for who they are, where they are in this moment, right, of their life? And so I have the honor of being the executive sponsor of our Women's Network, which represents our women population. Our goal of our Women's Network is equity. That's what I tell folks all the time. I am here on behalf of our membership to help support the views, the concerns, the problems of women, with the goal of ensuring that we have equitable opportunities for all. And my belief is if we can help those issues and concerns of our women be known and we can take action on them, it will help all people, men and women, and will make our company stronger. It probably goes back, I guess, we're talking all the way to my grandfather, of that idea of empathy, and everyone matters. Every person counts. And for the Women's Network, that's what we strive to do for that. And I'm really, proud to say our company isn't one that just has a group over here that meets every now and then. I mean, our CEO, our executive team, we pull in fact, I was on a call yesterday of, hey, what does the Women's Network think about this? And it was a benefit change that they were. So, we could get the team together and we could give them our input. Mm-hmm. We've also driven initiatives in our company. Our Women's Network runs and supports our mentoring program for all people, but with a focus on women. And sometimes we'll have a special team that looks at women's issues. Maybe working moms, for example, will get together. We have men and women who are mentors. We have men and women who are mentees, in this program. One thing I'm really proud of, accomplishment that we made several years ago, was a change in our gender neutral paid parental leave. And so this was, a topic that came up several times, and through a lot of benchmarking and discussion, we made a huge change to that benefit for all employees, again, gender neutral, where before we had maternity leave for 4 to 6 weeks, right? Depending on, for women, maternity. So the woman who gave birth could take time off. But, the fact that we're able to push now through and offer 12 weeks of paid gender neutral parental leave means that moms and dads can take time off to bond with their kids. And it's a really important, I have 3 boys. I went through the maternity leave piece of it. And it's not just making sure that, new moms, new dads have opportunities to be with their kids. It's the fact that it's the moms and the dads. We are not sending a message as a company to say, well, moms are the ones who should stay home. Right. Maternity leave implies. We believe in the family. As a company, it's part of our culture. We believe in our employees taking time, be with your family. It's important to you. It's important to us as a company to have that time. So anyway, that's something I'm really proud of. It puts us now in the top echelon of companies worldwide when you look at paid parental leave. And but that's an example of something the Women's Network has done.
12 weeks. Holy cow. Really quick. And Enrique, I want to get your follow-up thought here, but I want to go back to something that Marcia shared. We can learn so much from the Ray Casabellas of the world. As you described him as, I think to use your words, a blue collar welder, right? Folks that did it, they do the work. I love the phrase of going to the Gemba, sitting down and learning from the folks that are masters and experts in what they do. And it's not just in the what I'll call the tactical operations. It's their POV on life and the journey and their leadership. We learn so much there because everybody truly does matter. Enrique, what else did you hear there from Marcia that really sticks out to you?
Well, like incredibly caring culture that not only believes in maximizing profits, but it feels like they go beyond what the financial gains of a company are, which is incredible. I think it's something that's probably going to be attracting a lot of talent, like the new generations, Marcia, and I would love to hear your take on this, that really value companies like GE Appliances that stand for more than just making money or just making great products. And I think this is great. It's a great example.
So, Enrique, if I could expand on that, it's a great point. Of course. I definitely see the next generation of leaders, employees coming into our company, expecting something different from their employer versus, when I came into work 29 years ago, I, kind of patterning off of my parents. I'm used to, you come in, you put your work in, you put your 40, 50, 60 hours in, and then you go home. And that's what you need to do to raise a family. But now, there's a higher expectation of companies of if employees are going to come in and spend that kind of time of their life with a company, it has to have meaning. And they have to feel that their company stands for something that's important to them. And the time that they're putting in is valuable and will make a difference in the world. And one thing that GE Appliances has always done and has definitely putting more emphasis on is our involvement in the community. For me personally, I have the great honor of representing GE Appliances on the board for the American Red Cross Kentucky chapter. And, when the opportunity came up for me to do that, I remember my parents always volunteered in the community and my kids got older and I said, this is something I want to do. And I always thought it's me giving to them. And I thought it was a 3-year commitment. It's now 11 years. I'm still with the Red Cross. I have definitely gotten more out of that relationship with the Red Cross than I have given. And it has made me a better leader. And I totally understand, this generation wanting to do more and wanting to be more. We are stronger as a company if we can reach out into the community, which as a consumer product business, absolutely. What better way to connect with the people who are potential customers of yours than to understand where they are? It also helps put things in perspective. We make appliances. There are life and death decisions and things that are happening out in our communities that as a company, we have the resources, the people, the knowledge that we can make our communities better and stronger. And we do have an obligation as a company to do that. And so I applaud this generation coming in of saying it's important. And I applaud our company for continuing to evolve those expectations to make sure that we're delivering not just for our employees, but because it's good for our company, it's good for our communities to make that connection.
Wholeheartedly agree. And, I appreciate it. It takes these organizations like the American Red Cross need volunteer leadership bandwidth. They need resources. They need that 11 years of service. When I was in the Air Force and based at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas, a tornado came through Hoisington, Kansas, a tiny little town, middle of the night, which is a bit rare for tornadoes. So we took a contingent up there and volunteered with someone to clean up. And the very first folks on site, I'll never forget it, was this Red Cross bus providing some comfort, little pieces of comfort like coffee and a breakfast sandwich. When folks have nothing and the last thing on their mind is, how can I make breakfast? So it's amazing. I appreciate what y'all do. And I appreciate GE Appliances allowing their leaders and investing in these service initiatives. So before I flip it back to Enrique, you started kind of talking about what the now generations, we call it here, is looking for in employers. And some of the things I've learned rubbing elbows with brilliant students from the College of Charleston to the University of Arkansas to Texas Christian University, you name it. They all also want to move into, make an impact and move into the senior executive levels. So what's a piece of advice that you offer any of our listeners that want to be that next Marcia Brey?
Yeah, sure. So, I come to that question from a different perspective because I did not think I would make it here. I mean, I'm just a small town, but on the outskirts of a large town girl who grew up in a modest family, who, really just wanted to help people, just wanted to continue to learn and grow. And I, like I said, I'm so appreciative of where I am and the opportunities that I've had. What I would tell other folks is don't be afraid to dream big. You don't limit yourself by your spreadsheet, on the first pass that you have and think that, well, that's the way my life is going to be. Like I said, I've had a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, people who have helped me see more of what I could be than I could see myself. And so you got to put yourself out there. You got to take some risk. You have to deliver and you got to put the work in for sure. At the same time, I really have valued input. I call them my truth tellers. So, it's one thing to have coaches and mentors that you like and people that, are going to pump you up and cheer you on. I so value the people who will give me the blunt truth. I think I did a great job in that meeting. I think that project was great. And they'll come in and say, this came across a little wrong. Did you mean for it to come across this way? Maybe you could have done this, and really be humble and listen to that feedback. And I can't tell you how much I've grown because of people willing. It's hard. It's hard to give constructive feedback, or it's hard to hear it, at times. Right. You keep your brain, kind of open to it. I constantly do that. And even where I am now, I mean, it's, being a vice president of a phenomenal company is something every day I tell myself, it's not the title. I am not the title. I sit in the seat. I have the privilege of sitting in the seat right now. But every day it's my job to keep getting better and to humble myself and to keep learning from others. And so I am still on the track, I would say, of what advice I would give to other folks to be able to continue to grow.
Love that. And to our listeners, part of Marcia's answers there, I think is we all need to take it to heart, because we've got to practice and be willing to learn how to effectively give constructive feedback as well as take it. Both of those sides of the coin are so important. Enrique, so much here. This could easily be a 4-hour episode, because I got so many questions I want to pose to Marcia, but for the sake of time, we'll keep moving forward. Enrique, where are we going next with Marcia Brey?
Yeah, we'll switch gears a little bit here, but before that, I just want to say that yes, it's inspiring everything you said, and it's absolutely great to be talking to you, Marcia. I'm pretty sure that you're going to be a great example for many of our listeners out there. So put the work, be humble, listen. Great advice.
Dream big.
I've been taking lots of notes. So don't limit yourself. So changing gears a bit here, with all the experience you've had, with the years that we've had, last couple in particular, being so challenging in many different ways, especially for supply chains and organizations like GE Appliances, what are the things that you kind of keep a closer look at? What are your indicators that you consider important with this kind of changing economies that we're living? Yeah.
So, having a worldview of what's happening is so critical to being a supply chain leader, nowadays. In the past, we would rely on what happened last month to predict the future. And that's not true anymore. And so there's a lot of nebulous, there's a lot of unknowns. And so it is critical, for us being a global company. I watch what's happening over in Asia a lot with the ports, how transportation is flowing, obviously the war in Ukraine and the impact that is having into the United States. And of course, right now the union ports are in negotiation, and how that could possibly impact things, the lack of labor and the constraints of transportation. And warehousing, all the same thing. And then our customers, and probably that's where I would start, is our customer expectation is changing as fast as the world around us and the supply chain factors are changing. And, and if you don't keep your eye on both sides of the coin, with that customer being first, you can sit there and think, well, hey, I have all these risk abatements and I have flexibility and I have options, but my customer just moved in terms of what they consider to be good. It does not matter that your supply chain is working for yesterday's problem. It has to work for today's problem. And so I have more of a voice towards our customers, our micro enterprises, leaders, the way my company is organized, to make sure what is most important to them and to our customers is the main problem and what I'm focusing on. We change our, I hate to say we change our strategy generator, because I would have said like 5 years ago, whoa, that person's like all over the place. Well, now, if you think you're going to lock in a strategy, and we used to plan 5 years and lock it in, a year and lock it in. It's good to plan. You need a plan, but you got to be willing to move off that plan and pivot and stop working on some things and start working on others. So that's where I am focused every day and every week. How do I make sure I'm delivering for my customers, and what I think is success, my customer also thinks is success.
I love that. Have a plan, but keep the window open.
That's right.
When you got to throw it out. So much there. I think a natural follow-up question, Marcia, is the Eureka moment. Clearly, just from your answer to Enrique's question, there's so much that you have learned, the organization has learned, we as supply chain professionals have learned over the last few years. What's one Eureka moment that is a gift that keeps on giving for you? What's a strong Eureka moment you've had in recent years?
I'll share a story with you, if that's okay, to answer that question. So you could probably tell, being an engineer with 2 master's degrees, that I love process and equations and things to fit into patterns. I like finding chaos and patterns in chaos and making that work. The job before this one, I was asked to lead our business continuity plan for COVID, our COVID response. I was very honored and very humbled. I did not know a lot about pandemics, as you would not expect an engineer perhaps to, but every day was a day of learning. And I remember very early on, our CEO, as I was working with him, gave us 3 key focus areas. And he said, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But first and foremost, we're going to take care of our employees. Second, we're going to keep this business running the best we can and take care of customers. And third, we're going to get back to community. And I wrote that on the whiteboard. And so in my planning, I wanted to put a playbook together, right? Because we're going to, we don't have a playbook on a pandemic, so let's write one. And I went out and started researching and all of this and did a lot of work. And I had a core team. I was co-leading with a really good friend of mine. She's our head of security here in Lindsay. And we were like, hey, this is where we want to go. And 3 months into it, everything we put in the playbook, nothing was relevant. I couldn't, because every day was something different. The CDC was changing the guidelines. Now we have this new variant. How is it transferable on product, on paper? Is it airborne? Is it, I don't know, right? We didn't know. And I'll tell you, my Eureka moment there was you can't plan for everything. And not having a detailed plan to execute does not mean that you're not a good leader. What's more important is trusting yourself in the moment, trusting your team, going to see. Don't waste your time huddling in a corner and trying to put all of the rules together of how you're going to operate. What's more important is being there with the team who's experiencing the problem in the moment. Listen and see what's going on and trust that we work the problem in front of you. And trust that your team will be able to come up with a solution there. You don't have to then try to feel like I got to go look it up in the book and say, oh yeah, there's the problem you have. Now I'm going to go find it in this playbook I put together. And here's what we do. You'll figure it out there because you're going to waste a lot of time putting all these what ifs together that may or may not be true in this situation. And you got to trust yourself. And I'll tell you, it was like a burden lift off me. And although I would have said when the vaccine comes, the pandemic will be done, and we'll go back to my what I still love plans together. I love that, but it's not. It's not. There is no normal. There is no normal. Stop expecting, Marcia, that there is going to be a normal, and that you're going to be disappointed every day. So don't do that. Live in the moment. Work the problem in front of you. Have a plan. I'm not saying don't have a plan, but allow yourself some grace. That you're not going to know everything that's going to happen tomorrow. You can't anticipate everything, but you can be great at solving that problem that comes up. And you can pull the right people together because we have great people here. And those people can solve anything that's in front of them. And you got to trust that. And I'll tell you, like I said, it's changed the way I think of leadership. I'm calmer, I think. I'm not as uptight. And you don't let things bother you. I can absorb a lot more uncertainty now. Because of that mindset change that I had.
Wow.
And Enrique, I bet you're chomping at the bit to speak to some of what she just shared.
Well, incredibly powerful, right? And so true. Just having a good team, then trusting the team. I feel like that's part of the cultural, organizational change that corporations will have to go through, right? It's goes hand in hand with purpose and having a higher purpose. So yeah, this is great. It's been very challenging couple of years for everyone, that's for sure. But trusting your team, that's very powerful.
So 2 quick thoughts from what I heard Marcia shared there. The first one is the guideposts, 3 things that the CEO laid out there, taking care of the employees, taking care of the customers, and investing in community. Sometimes over the last couple of years, that's as much of a plan as we've had. And that's okay, is what I'm hearing, which is good because if you've got those guideposts, you're going to find the right plan. You're going to find the right actions. You're going to find the right ways to support the team and to make an impact. And then secondly, Marcia, kind of what you wrapped on there is we've got to embrace our inner bounty. Y'all remember bounty, the quicker picker upper, right? Absorption. I've never thought about bounty as a leadership principle, right? Because Marcia, you're absolutely right. Perhaps more now than ever before, we absorb so much because we're constantly connected, right? Social networks, email, Slack, you name it. We're constantly getting bombarded. We all are, regardless of where you are in an organization. So we got to lean in to that inner bounty moments and characteristics. Marcia, it sounds like you are a study in leadership. You're a constant student in leadership, real leadership, and we're going to have you back. But as we start to wrap here, how can our listeners, how can folks out there that come across this conversation, how can they further connect with you and GE Appliances?
Yeah. So Of course, I think I work at a great company and would encourage folks to check out www.geappliancesco.com, which will give you more information about our company, what we believe in. If you want to learn more just about our principles and beliefs. For me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active there. And so you're certainly welcome to search me up there on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. It's just that easy. Marcia Brey, really have enjoyed our time together. It went by just like we knew it would, but we're going to do a check-in with you maybe as we get further into the rest of the year. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights and experiences and expertise with our listeners here. Thanks so much, Marcia.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. But don't go anywhere. We're going to wrap. I've got a surprise question for Enrique. Enrique doesn't like surprise questions, but Marcia, we're going to surprise him with a quick question.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet. Well, there's a lot of humility here. Enrique is very humble, but Marcia, Enrique and his organization, Vector Global Logistics, won the Champions of Humanity Award just yesterday. When this is, as we're recording this, just yesterday at the 2022 Supply Chain and Procurement Awards, and that was very richly deserved. One of the many initiatives, this is where y'all have a lot in common, I believe, beyond engineering, beyond kind of kindred spirits and kind of that global view, service, real action and results focused service is what I've heard both of y'all speak to. One of your projects, Enrique, you and your team, is the Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine project, Supply Chain Now. We're very honored to be your partners there. If you would, just quick blurb about what you and the team are trying to do and how can folks get involved.
Of course. Well, we're all trying to help the millions and millions of people that have been impacted by this stupid war. I don't have any other words to actually say it. So that's kind of the way I feel about it. I think everyone at my company and around the world and many other organizations are angry and pissed that this continues to happen. And so we're trying to help out. There's millions of refugees in Poland and Moldova and other countries around the Ukraine. So what we decided to do was have this every other week calls with different organizations and then help them not only sponsor freight into those communities and into that region, but also try to help in matchmaking those connections. And we had amazing collaboration from different organizations in the US. So it's been amazing to see how many people care about this. And I would invite everyone to join us. You can go to our website at www.vectorgl.com, and there will be a window popping up for the Ukraine. You can sign up for the every other week. They were weekly, but now there's every 2 week calls that we're having. And of course, if you have something that you need to ship to the Ukraine, but for whatever reason you don't have the resources to do so, send us an email at ukraine@vectorgl.com. We have a couple warehouses set up and we'll ship that for you at no cost.
Love that. And I would add, as having been a part of those working sessions that are bi-weekly now, even if you're not in a position to donate or if you're not in a position to offer boots on ground market intel, I'll call it, hey, come and learn, because folks are in Ukraine and Poland, or they're getting stuff there, humanitarian aid, and you can learn a ton from these bi-weekly sessions. So check out vectorgl.com. Thank you, Enrique, for you and your team, what you do. Marcia Brey, for you and GE Appliances, thank you so much for all that you do. I've learned a ton. And now I'm going to go look at my appliances very differently, right? They're basically smart devices these days. So Marcia Brey, really enjoyed your time here today. Vice President of Distribution with GE Appliances. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcia. This was a pleasure. And thank you, Scott, for inviting me to this very interesting conversation.
I set a high bar for this conversation, and Marcia leaped over it. As if she was an Olympic.
It was easy, though.
Really was.
We didn't really have to do much.
So I'll make it easy. So.
Thank you, Marcia. And Enrique Alvarez, host of Logistics with Purpose and Supply Chain Now in Espanol. Y'all check that out wherever you get your podcast from. Listeners, hey, man, there is like a playbook, to use a term that Marcia shared with us today, a playbook full of takeaways from this conversation here today. Different ways, big and small, that you can act and be a stronger, more effective leader. I heard that from Marcia and Enrique here today. So but you've got to take those steps, right? You've got to walk through that door. So as we wrap here today, Scott Luton and the Supply Chain Now team challenging you to, hey, be like Marcia Brey, be like Ray Casabella, be like Enrique Alvarez, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.